Shalom, shalom. This week's Parsha is Parshat Vayeishev. And I want to take a little time to look at the story of Yosef and learn hopefully a valuable lesson from him. So we are told in this week's Parsha he's 17 years old and he was living the good life at that point. He was really beloved by his father. As we're told, he loved him, Yaakov loved him very much. He was Ben Zukunim, a child of his old age, and here he is, a son after 10 other sons and a daughter, and he was just but a baby when Yaakov left all those years of hard working in Laban, and he finally returned to his hometown, and he had more time to expend and love on this child. And he did. He made him that fine ketonet pasim, a special tunic, and really showered him with lots of love and attention. And Yosef had a good self-image. He felt good about himself. He was a good-looking child, a good-looking boy, and obviously got abundant love from his father, and not to mention his mother being the first son after waiting many years for him and watching the other wives have children. So she obviously found him to be something special also. So his self-worth was up there, and for every reason. And he was having these grandiose dreams, and life was really good for him. But then that turned on a dime when, he shared these dreams with his brothers, and they hated him, and they were jealous of him, and they tried to kill him. And he ends up, luckily, because he wasn't killed because of Reuven and Yehuda, first Reuven and then Yehuda, and he ended up, unfortunately, from this really the lap of luxury living, with everything he wanted and all the attention and love, to being stripped of his clothes and being sold as a slave. Now, when he's going down, being sold, that he must have been in a very dark, low, depressing place. But we see that he kept his chin up. He did the best he could, and he ended up, he was a slave, but in the house of Potiphar, and God was with him, and Potiphar's house was very successful and did really well on behalf of Yosef and all of his vice and everything he did that flourished. And so things started becoming good again for him. And I think this is because, he kept a stiff upper lip and did everything the way he should have. And God blessed him. God blessed his positive attitude. God blessed the fact that he was trying to do everything right. And things started going well for him. Now we see that Potiphar's wife making advances over and over and over again, and really then in the end accusing him of rape. He ends up being thrown in jail. In jail. So like anybody else would be like, why is this happening to me? I had a good life, and then I end up being stripped of my clothes, thrown in a pit, and I'm sold, and finally things are starting to go good for me, and everything's starting to go well, and then I get accused of rape, and I end up in another sort of pit, in the hole in the ground of a jail, of accused of horrible crimes. And he could have just gotten depressed and just said, what's going on, and just, wallowed in misery, as a lot of people would have. But no, he, again, kept a stiff upper lip and did everything, looked for opportunities. He was very opportunistic, and he didn't get depressed and dejected, but always tried his best to do things well, to do them in a proper way, and to help people, and to be a good person. And every time he did this, trying to help people when they were down and saying, what's wrong with you? How can I help you? And tried to help people. And this is why God was with him and helped him also to succeed, because he was doing everything he could. And also God had a plan for him. But had he taken a bad road and had he had a bad attitude, I'm not so sure that God would necessarily be with him. But it's because of his attitude, because of the fact that he didn't give up, because he always tried and helped others, that everything he did, God helped him to succeed. And he manages, once again, to get out of the jail and to get brought to the house of Paro, where he ends up being second in command in Egypt, where he was like Paro himself, because we know all of his advice and all of everything he did, and nothing was done unless it had the approval of Yosef. So Paro was a figurehead, but Yosef was really in charge of basically Egypt, which meant the whole world, because the whole world was going through famine and depended on Egypt. Now, all this would not have happened if he didn't keep his chin up and try his best to make the best out of every situation that he was in. And this is such a lesson for us, because we give up, some of us, I'm not saying all of us, I'm guilty of this, to give up easily when things don't go our way. Could you imagine being stripped of your clothes, thrown in a pit, and taken in chains down to be sold as a slave, and then being accused of rape and being in prison with hardcore criminals, and to be able to work with that, to work with this? It's amazing what he did. And I think that this is a lesson for us to always, despite how difficult and how hard things are, to try our best to maintain our self-worth, our self-dignity, to know who we are. He knew that he had talents and abilities, and he used them. He used them to help himself, because they say God helps those who help themselves, and that was Yosef. So I take this very much as chizuk to keep my chin up, to keep working hard, and to doing the right thing, and to try and help other people. And God willing, God will help us. And we don't see. We can be, again, down in a pit. Things can turn on a dime, as we see did for Yosef time and time again. So I hope you can all seek strength from him. And I wish you all a Shabbat Shalom.